friend Kat Rambo. We're going to talk about my favorite subject, and I know hers, and we talk about this a lot in our platform, is integration. And today is going to talk a little bit about integration and why bother. So, Kat, how are you today? And why
I'm
bother
doing
with integration?
fine. I love that we're doing this, and I know we briefly spoke about this already, but I really want to share that this is a series, right? So this is episode one. Episode two, same bad time, same bad channel, right? That'll be
Yes.
about, because I know you and I are both super passionate about this topic. So because these are very brief, I want to stay super focused. Integration, why bother? Next week, we're going to be doing a little bit of live coaching. So I know that a lot of these integration stories are very personal. So if you guys want to send, if you guys want some live coaching or you want to share your stories, I would love for you guys to either send them to me or send them to Mark and we can share them and do some live coaching, maybe some live like working through it or suggestions, but anonymously. So that way you can still enjoy the experience of it without feeling like you're putting yourself out there too much. I know sometimes it's really personal. And then the third one, instead of doing horror stories, we're doing what? Gratitude stories. I love that. Awesome.
Gratitude. Because
Yes.
this is a grateful medicine. So why don't we hop on this morning of integration and why
Yes.
bother? I mean, for me,
Yes.
I think integration is kind of like surgery, open heart surgery, right? So, I mean, you go and you plan for that surgery, you go and you have that surgery, and now you go and you heal from that surgery. And most of us don't do the before and after. We just go for that surgery. So,
Right. I think that integration has become such a buzzword recently. Thankfully, I'm very happy for that. So
right.
let's this what is integration? What's the point? And I get asked this all the time, like, what even is integration? Why do I need that? Do I really have to stay for that? Like, yes, you do. Integration is incorporation. It's bringing different things together. So we're going to take an experience and turn it into a way of living, right? So this is about not finding the integral in math. We can do that later, right? This is about the
Right.
expression of your experience in your life. Like, how can you take an experience and turn it into something meaningful? This is taking your knowledge and turning it into wisdom, walking in that wisdom in your life. This is taking the intention you set when you went into an intense experience and turn it into your reality, your way of living. So there's a process to that. So we're just going to stick with what is and why bother, right? So there are two ways to look at that. Why bother? Because it's good for you, and let's look at that. And why bother? Why? What happens when you avoid it? Right. So let's talk about that too. So let's look at both sides of the coin. Should I really do it? Does it really matter? Yes, yes, it does. So integration. Here in Plant Path Group, we have a unique opportunity to talk about medicine experiences specifically, which is awesome because integration actually applies to any type of experience we want to learn, turn into something, right? So we create meaning. This is something I do with a lot of my clients. We create meaning. Meaning isn't derived by something that has meaning, and then we have this thing. We create meaning for anything. And you know this because one person can see the same experience completely different from someone else, right? So for one, they see this horrible trauma of losing everything in their life, and then the other, like I, I went through a whole period of transformation in my life, and my family was looking at me like, Kat, why are you so stoked? I'm like, this is an amazing opportunity. I get to start over. What a beautiful blessing. And they're like, Kat, you're crazy, right?
Right.
But I was happy and I made a beautiful life out of it. That's the integration part. How do you make a life way out of it? So we know that we're creating meaning. Integration is the process of getting purposeful about that. Now, there are all kinds of ways to do integration. So there are lots of integration therapists out there that are disciplined in psychological arts. And sometimes, though this is very helpful because they understand the inner workings of the mind, they may not be disciplined, experienced, or connected to medicine journeys or psychedelic use, right? So sometimes it's hard to find a good integration coach. Thankfully, this is not such an underground thing anymore. So there are integration coaches out there. And sometimes we have medicine practitioners who may be phenomenal guides and facilitators who really aren't that good at the integration process because that requires a little bit more knowledge about the psychology of transformation as opposed to the medicine discipline itself. So when you find that combination, it's really unique and it's really cool. I love being able to give that to my clients. And I know you see that too, Mark. There's a lot of integration opportunity out there now, and it's worthwhile to find something that one you connect with, someone that you feel like you can hear what they're saying and not be annoyed or put off, right? But also understand that feeling a little abrasive towards the process is actually normal, in the same way that fear comes up when we go into ceremony. There's a change happening and the mind will try and resist it a little bit, and that's normal. That's part of the process, right? It can also just feel really exciting. So some people come to me because they are struggling. So that's what happens when integration is not done properly. Okay. Improper integration can result in a number of things. And I know that you've seen this, Mark. And I know you guys in Plant Path, you guys who are involved in plant community, you've seen this a lot too, where someone will go and have a revelatory experience and it affects their life zero. They just go back to their life. They don't know how to be, they don't know what to do, they don't know how to deal with the experience, and they have this life-changing moment and it literally changes nothing. They just go back to their ways, right? Why does that happen? Poor integration is why that happens. Yep. Integration is the practice of applying what you have learned, right? So this can look like changes in behaviors. This can look like changes in attitudes, changes in perspectives. And this doesn't have to be complicated. Changes in belief and identity and emotions. This can run so deep. And it's awesome. What is unfortunate is when integration isn't done properly. And that doesn't always mean that the practitioner didn't know what they were doing. Sometimes you just don't jive with what they're saying, like you can't apply the things they said. I know that with my clients, I try to make things as simple and easy as possible, because making big changes in life is hard, but when we have a monumental experience, it makes those changes sometimes easier to kickstart. That's why we do these things like go to ceremony. We want that 10 years of therapy in a weekend. We want that God moment. We want that, oh my God, I am the universe. Well, cool, but are you bathing? Are you paying your phone bill? Like, have you gone to work this week? Like, you can't just not live because you're one with the cosmos. How do you take that experience and turn it into a good life? That's integration, right?
That's integration, 100%. Yeah. And that abrasiveness towards the process. That's a great term, abrasiveness toward, because I think when you feel that abrasiveness, something good is about to happen and you're fighting that. So
sure. And sometimes it's hard to determine, like, is it because I just don't jive with what this person's saying, or is it because I hear a truth and it's uncomfortable? You'll know.
Absolutely, you'll know.
It's not uncomfortable. It's not uncommon. And unintegrated ceremony, this is my place of judgment straight up. Okay, just forewarning you. I meet people often who tell me that they were told by practitioners that in order to fully understand their experience, they need more and more and more medicine. This is not only unsafe, it is unproductive. I'm not saying don't do more medicine. Hello, I'm a medicine practitioner. I love it. You know what I mean? Awesome. Let's have a party. But a really amazing experience, or even a very subtle one, can turn into a profound life change if handled properly, And sometimes that looks a little weird. Like, I just discovered that I'm an alien from Arcturus B. How do I live my life now? Or the medicine told me I'm supposed to be a healer. What do I do? Do you go out and start practicing? No, calm down. This is why it's important to have someone who understands the psychedelic and medicine process, not just someone who understands psychotherapy, because the visionary state is unique, and to not really understand how to interpret that, especially the context of medicines, like ayahuasca specifically gives certain messages all the time, right? If you know what those are, I have seen so many people tell me the same thing that they received from ayahuasca, and I'm like, pause, that's not really what that means. This is a visionary state. It's like a dream. We're going to interpret this together, and we're going to make it mean something for your life, and we're going to make these little changes so that you can live your best self and move toward this dream, right? But sometimes we take these experiences very literally, and we think, the plants speak English, and they live in, Nebraska, and therefore, none of that.
Right.
Sometimes it's like a dream, or sometimes we don't know what happened, or we feel like nothing happened. That was one of my favorites too. I feel like nothing happened, so we get nothing out of it. But maybe that is oftentimes a really profound learning. And integration continues. It's not like you go to a session and then you move on in your life. It's not like that. Integration happens constantly. And integration comes from any life-changing experience. This can be a horrible trauma. This can be
Yeah.
a revelation. This can be a big life change, like a divorce. I have integration clients who they don't really need to integrate their psychedelic experience. They need to integrate their divorce. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's all part of that. We're constantly integrating. Are we doing it effectively? Are we doing it in a way that supports our growth? Are we doing it in a way that is expert? Right? Well, we usually don't. So that's why we call it professional.
Right. And that's why we have coaches, and that's why we have
Right.
people that have a little bit more experience to guide these people on this path, because
Right.
it's a
Right.
guidance. This is a way to heal.
Yes.
This is a way to heal your mental health. It's the only
Hmm.
way that I have found. And that's why we try to beat this in the head about this integration, how important it is, because it's not about the medicines. It is in a way, but it's
Right.
about integrating, like you say, trauma,
Yes.
integrate what these beautiful medicines have given you for that moment, because that
Yeah.
moment's going to last only for a moment, and it's going to go away.
Right. But one moment in eternity, can change your perspective forever if you
Absolutely.
let it.
Right.
If you know how to do that. And a lot of times I find I love that you're so passionate about this and you're taking so much time, energy, and effort and from your life in order to give this message to the world, because a lot of times, especially with traditional South American practices, there isn't really a lot of integration, or we pass around the talking stick and share experience, but cool, so what? I mean, which can be amazing. It's not to be dismissive of that, but I really believe in a significantly more in-depth approach, because in these traditional contexts, they don't really do integration because it's already built into their cultural infrastructure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We do not have that here in the West. We have problems with mental health. It's why we're turning to these medicines and traditional life ways and practices. Our modern Western mindset is not as um, I would say, practiced in the process of integrating an intense experience, which is why we have mental breakdowns, which is why we don't know what to do with our traumas, which is why we get PTSD. We don't know how to be flexible with what happens to us, right? We don't know how to process it or deal with it, which is why we're turning to the medicines. So, in some ways, we're exacerbating a problem because we don't realize that we don't actually have the culture context to process the thing that we think is going to help, which is causing a similar problem. You see what I mean? Like, I know it seems a little
Absolutely.
circuitous.
For sure. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. I mean,
Right.
we need a different process here with this
Yes.
medicine in the Western
We do.
world. Okay.
Yes.
And I think living proofs like me and you and people's stories are really important,
Yeah.
seeing people's stories of where they've been, because we've got enough talk service in this country. Proof
Hmm.
is watching somebody evolve. And that's not
Yeah.
watching somebody evolve in a matter of months, but that's watching somebody evolve in a matter of years. That
Hmm.
transformation is just amazing.
Sure. Absolutely. And I do want to offer one more point, especially because I know that we don't want to take too long, right? That
Right.
integration is not just for difficult experiences.
No, it's not.
Integration is for the beautiful ones too. And I have clients that come to me and say, well, I don't really need integration because I had a magical experience. I know exactly what it means and I'm changing my life. Great. How much more accelerated would that process be with a professional to guide you and help you? It's not just for most of my clients who come to me for integration counseling, come to me because they're struggling or they've had an experience and they don't know how to be, they're like spinning out, or they're having a roller coaster of emotions, or they don't know what to do with what they saw. And they want either more medicines to help process it, or they want help because they're struggling, right? And now they think that they're somehow worse because of the experience. You're not, you're just not. We are not practiced in coping with these type of experiences, but they can change your life forever. And just because you had a good experience doesn't mean don't do integration coaching,
That's
especially
an
when it
important
comes
point. I mean,
to.
those good experiences can be so much better with that integration. I mean,
Oh, yes. Mhm.
maybe there's that message there, because there's
Right.
that abrasiveness again coming in, that
Mhm.
ego and that abrasiveness saying,
Sure.
look, I had a great experience, I don't need to further this. Well,
Right. Or I'm already changing my life. Cool.
yeah,
But if you gain that much insight from one ceremony, how much more could you gain from someone who knows exactly how to help you change your life forever?
absolutely, Kat, for sure. That's why we're here, that's why we're doing this, that's why we're informing and spreading this message of how this process should work.
Right.
If somebody's
Yeah.
telling you come back every weekend and drink the medicine, that's somebody you shouldn't be going to. So,
Yes. And I know that, again, that's my judgment. And for some, that really works for them. So it's not, a blanket statement. But I have seen it so much now. And I actually have clients that come to me with like ceremony PTSD from just more medicines, more medicines, more medicines, or a crazy experience. I'm an alien now. What am I supposed to do? Like, shower today. That's what you're supposed to do. Get up and walk your dog. You know what I mean?
one step forward and live in this
Right,
world.
exactly.
Live in
Live
this
your
world.
life because that's what
Yeah,
it's
I
for.
mean,
And every medicine has their own path too.
right.
So every
Yeah,
medicine speaks in a little different way. So
right.
it is worthwhile to find someone who specializes in the medicine that you're looking to integrate also, because each of
Absolutely.
these experiences are going to speak a little differently.
Yep, they sure are. Um,
Hmm.
there's all different types of medicine. We talk about ayahuasca a lot, but I mean, Bufo, 5-MeO. I mean, those are life changers, but different
Sure.
kind of
Yeah,
integration processes with those
completely.
medicines.
Right, exactly. And even the underappreciated medicines which aren't traditionally considered psychedelic, which can be visionary, like Kambo. I love Kambo, right? Kambo, I cannot tell you how many integration coaching clients I have from Kambo because they're telling me that they had this experience and they didn't know what it was, and now they're having all these weird things going on in their life. That's unintegrated medicine experience,
Right. Well,
straight
it's a
up.
body
And
healer.
Kambo doesn't tell me about integration at all.
You're healing your body there at that point. And we could go on a whole different series of how that's where the healing starts, is in your body. You got
Well,
it.
our emotions are in our body. Our
That's it.
stories and our traumas are in our body. And when that clears out, what are you filling in that vacuum, What are you processing out? What happens if you suddenly feel super turbulent? Or what happens if life starts shifting around you? How do you cope? Well, find someone who knows what they're doing. Ask for
Exactly.
help. Yeah,
Exactly. You just mentioned something. What do you fill that with? Those voids that are now empty, are you going to fill that with your old processes and go back? No, you got to want to integrate that and fill that with the goodness.
exactly, exactly. And what I love is simplicity, right? I'm all about it. I made things complicated for so long. I learned so many
Right.
different things and I did so many different practices. And I realized in the end, it's much simpler, and it's better when it's simple because it's actionable, it's sustainable. I like sustainable. I like actually life changing. And who has time to like, I suddenly feel inspired to be with my inner self. So I'm going to meditate 12 hours a day. No, you're not. You're going to go back to work. You're going to turn on the TV. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And it doesn't need to. But how can you bring tiny practices in your life all the time so you're living in a state of meditation? That's cool. That's
Yeah.
something you can learn from someone who knows what they're talking about and who has seen it so many times. You know what I mean? So I love personally teachers. I love teachers because it's the shortcut. Why wouldn't we want the shortcut? And when we're turning to medicines, you already know that you do. So
Yeah.
be with it.
Yeah. 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 It's just so you nail everything so spot on. This is simple. It's not that hard. We make it difficult because that's what we're programmed. All this is a program. We got to reprogram the programming, and that's what these medicines do. So, integration and why bother. Next week we're going to do some live. We're going to grab some people from our group or your group, and maybe do a live um,
Absolutely.
coaching. So,
Absolutely. I love it very much. Thank you so much for having me here. And again, if you guys really want to be part of this process, but you're nervous about being so vulnerable on such a big stage as Mark's amazing Plant Path group, and say hi to Michelle for me, by the way.
I will.
Um, I love her. That feel free to send either myself or I'm sure Mark would love to have you a message. I'm sure he doesn't get enough messages. that so we can work through what it is that you're working with. Sometimes the answer is a lot simpler than you think it is. And that way we can decide on some stories and some particular projects that might apply to a lot of people because you might be amazed how many extraordinary experiences I hear that actually all fit into a few themes.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I would love to be able to see that. And if you do want coaching, but you want access to a live integration coach for free, here you go. Mark is hooking you guys up. So let's do it together and feel free to send some messages in advance so we can be with that and you can stay anonymous because I totally understand that sometimes it's really personal and we want to be
Right.
able to honor that also.
And for not for free, also, we have a whole array of coaches on our website,
Yes,
theplantmedicinepet.com. Some
so good.
beautiful coaches on there. We have some great retreats you can book. And we're just a great platform to unhealthy your mental health. That's what we're trying to do. I love you.
I love it.
We'll talk soon, okay? We'll talk next week.
Can't wait. I'm ready already.
Yeah,
Love you
no,
all. Thank you,
love you.
Mark.